This is Gaudete Sunday, in which we are to find a special kind of joy that God gives. It's a different kind of joy that comes to us in this season, not one that fades with the trashing of the wrappings of our gifts that we receive or the putting out of the Christmas tree, or one that fades when the gifts we receive no longer seem to matter to us. But it's a different kind of joy, a joy that lasts, that the world can't take away. And the person who announces this joy to us is described today as the voice crying out in the desert. That's a very important image to unpack, to maybe look at what it is that about that voice that allows us to understand the joy that we are to receive. The first thing is that a voice in the desert is a singular voice. Otherwise, it is silent in the desert. And so it is God's own unique voice to us, telling us how much we are loved, how much we count, to take time out in our own prayer life, just to sit in the presence of God, to let Him tell us how much He wants to comfort us, that things are going to be all right. So often in life, we have a cacophony of sounds, of other voices that want to pretend to give us joy in life, that in many ways draw us in a way that makes our life so frenetic. Young people talk about FOMO, F-O-M-O, the fear of missing out, that they don't want to in any way to be left behind because they're not up to date with the newest gadget or the newest experience that's there. But God today tells us not to live our lives in that frenetic pace in which we act as though we don't know what airplane to land next, as though we're an air traffic controller of experiences. But rather, God takes us in this season into that quiet of the desert, just so we can hear His voice crying to us, telling us how much we are loved, how much we're valued, that things will be all right in our life. It's important to listen to that voice, because there we will find a joy. And the image of the desert is also important to keep in mind, because it harkens back to that experience of the people of Israel. It was the desert that was the place where they escaped to when they left through the Red Sea, the tyranny of Pharaoh. The desert is a place that reminds them of those aspects in their life that they were saved from. And so too, as we reflect on our experience of being in a safe place, even though we have done things in life that merit its own punishment and its own consequences, we so often escape all of the consequences of our ways that are part of sinful living. How often I think of in my own life how the things that have gone wrong in my life, in many ways God saved me from and gave me that safe passage into something new. So the desert is also that experience for us to reflect on those moments in which the Lord has saved us from our own weaknesses, our own mistakes, our own wrong decisions in life that should have merited so much more. And finally, it's the desert that is the experience that the people have before going into the Promised Land. And it is a sign that as they look forward to life and the future, it is filled with hope, that God is giving them another opportunity. And so too with us in this season. It is a moment of grace for us to realize no matter how old we are, what we have experienced in life, there's always more that the Lord wants to give to us, that our life is not over just because we have aged or come to a certain moment of success in our life, but He's always calling us to see that there's another moment of transition into a new life, into this promised land in which He is promising so much to us in our life. So today, let's recapture this joy that comes, that the Lord gives to us. A joy that begins, first of all, by going into that quiet place in our prayer in which we let the Lord tell us how much we're loved, how much we count. But also a joy that comes in recognizing how the Lord has saved us from our own foolish ways and not visited upon us the full consequences of our sinfulness. And finally, the joy that comes in knowing that no matter how our life has gone, how long it's been and that we have lived our life, that God always has something more. There's always a new phase that in fact will last for all eternity. That should give us the kind of joy that we celebrate in this season, not the one that fades away with the trashing of the Christmas tree or the wrappings from our packages and our gifts, but one that lasts for all eternity because they come from God.